Howdy everybody in YouTube land. So we're back on this guy, the PowerBook 100. This has been a multi-part series because I've worked on so many of these. Now this one here, it was working fine. When I bought this thing, I paid a little too much for it in my opinion. Needed a lot of work, and unfortunately, I got it restored. I was in the process of getting ready to sell it when all of a sudden, while I was in the middle of copying files, this happened to it. So I was in the middle of copying files when this whole section of the display went out. And that's what happens to these. Now, earlier in my series of these machines, I tried to use a piece of this adhesive and tried to glue that back in place, and it just didn't work right. These cough ribbons need a ton of pressure when you replace them with a hot bar and all that other stuff. But anyways, so unfortunately, that display is junk. So there's nothing I can do about that. So what I've done is shut this back down, get rid of it. And it sucks because there's no vinegar syndrome or anything like that. So we got to take it apart and replace that display. But those displays are getting incredibly hard to find. So fast forward a little bit of time, I picked up this very high hour Duo 210. You can see the key wear on that. Keyboard is shot, by the way. They all are. So I picked up this Duo 210 dirt cheap for parts because it has a good condition display. Now, I've restored a Duo 230, I think, and it's working. But very recently, another one of these, because what I was going to do is I was going to take the panel out of this machine, put it in here. It needs some modifications to do that, but we'll put them in there, and then that will give me, just pretty much junk parts. But then I have the metal frame that I need to put into a 280C that has a rusted, corroded frame. But then very recently, this one showed up. Now, I got this as is, pretty much like this. It's missing the covers, it's missing the mouse ball. It has a hard drive in it, which is cool, but pretty much everything else is missing. However, the screen is also in good condition. So I have two of these with two screens that are in good condition. Now, the other thing is these, since the whole top cover is gone, the rubber bumpers here didn't get smooshed in. So I might take this and save this cover to have these modeled, because these things need modeled and remade. Anywho, so that's out of the way there. So I'm thinking, since I've already got a working 230, I'm gonna part this one out and then attempt to fix this one, because the one thing I am lacking in my series of Duos is the 210. I have all of the other ones except for the 210. So I might just fix this one up. Now, these panels will work in the PowerBook 100. So like, it's hard to make a decision like this, because it's like, okay, you got a PowerBook 100, which is the very first PowerBook, so it has a cult following just for that alone, but it's only a 68,000. You can't do much with it. Whereas this one is a full 030. You can do a lot more with it, but it's also a Duo with a shittier keyboard than what's in that. And they're both the same as far as lacking drives, but at least this has expandability on the rear, where this one doesn't. It's like, okay, well, lesser of the two evils. You could have a good PowerBook 100 and a junk 230 that you want to fix. You can move that screen over, or vice versa. So, in my case, since this is a parts unit anyways, I'm just going to move that screen in there. Now, this screen, on the Duo version, there's a connector here. And that connector, there's a ribbon cable that plugs into it. Now the PowerBook 100, the cable is soldered directly to the panel. So I've got one of two options. Either I find a compatible ribbon cable and plug it in exactly as it is, or I unsolder the connector and then I unsolder the cable and I solder the cable directly where the connector used to be. Probably what I'm going to do. Alright, I got the screen apart. Now I can see why this one was parted out. Because if you look closely here on the ribbon cable, it's torn. So that explains why this thing was taken apart and then put back together and said heck with it. So, hey, you know what? I'm just going to use the screen out of it. Now, speaking of screen, I'm trying not to lay this on the ground because I'm trying to save the rubber bumpers to get modeled. But, caps aren't too bad, but you can definitely see some active leaking. So, we got to clip all that off and replace them. So, I went ahead and got the new caps installed. A little bit messy, but whatever. Next thing we got to do is remove this connector because the PowerBook 100 uses a wider pitch connector. Do you have to do this? No. You could make your own custom ribbon cable or adapters or whatever and adapt things across. But I'm doing it the hacky and easy way. So I removed this connector. And that will that'll allow me to solder the original cable that's on the 100 onto that LCD. Once you remove the panel, you can quickly see the issue. Exact same display, just a different frame and backlight assembly, and obviously this cable is here instead of here, like the Duo. And there's a piece of tape under there you got to work with, so we've got to pull this out, and you got to be careful, because when we go to remove this cable, we got to use the chip quick to do it, but we got to be careful with heat because otherwise we're going to melt this cable. All right, so this panel has been reassembled. I had to make sure to get all the little rubbers in there and I don't double them up because otherwise it can cause problems. And now we're reassembled. Got the ribbon cable in place. Not pretty, but it is what it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and carefully set this panel back in the PowerBook 100 and we're going to test it. Alright, the LCD panel is loosely sat in there. I do not know if this panel works. No idea, especially with the torn cable. So, here we go. Does it work? Huh. No power now. Oh, there we go. Oh, hell yeah. That whole bottom bar is on. This thing's working fine. No dead pixels or anything weird. So let's make sure it starts all the way up. It should brighten the backlight when it does. Hopefully. Yep, there it goes. See, it's working. Perfect. We have fixed it by stealing one from a Duo 230. So that is an option. If you want to save your PowerBook 100 over the Duo 210 or 230, well, this is how you do it. Alright, so everything should be working fine. Should see my RAM, all that. Yep, we're good. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down and reassemble this thing and get this thing put back together. And there we go. We can finally close the chapter on this machine as it works perfectly fine now. Finally. God, wow. I'd hate to be the person that is missing an arm to try to use something like this. Anyways, I can finally close the chapter on this machine. It works perfectly fine now. I feel comfortable enough with it where I snapped on that middle thing because these things break real easy if you're not careful. So, you don't want to put this back on until you know without a doubt that everything is going to be 100% perfect. So, we can finally close the chapter on this particular machine and the PowerBook 100 series repair overall. Finally, we can close this chapter. I have no more 100 machines I need to work on, so this is it. This is the final one, and we are good to go. Now I have to get these two things backed up. I forget when I copied that. In fact, let's see. That was done on January the 11th, 2025, and it is currently February the 7th, 2026. So almost a year and a month later. Anywho, now we can finally close the chapter. So that's it. That is it. So if you enjoyed this video and series, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Please feel free to leave a comment if you have one. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching.